people's lives for, I'm saying this with all due love, for a long time.
Let's say it factually. If I linked everything together, it'd be 39 years.
That's a good chunk.
There's people here, though, that have been there way longer than me.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like crew people, too.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Leslie Charleston, she's been here, I think, about 100 years.
Watch out, she's coming in for you right now, dude. She'll smack you right in the head.
We've been hanging out together now for about 2 or 3 weeks. He said, "You're Max." I said, "What?" He said, "You're Max." I said, "I don't know what the hell that is," so I'd forgotten about it. Anyway, another week later, I said, "Okay, what is Max?" He said, "Well, George Miller and I are doing this movie about this crazy kid in the future, and we've been looking for someone for Max, and you're it." I said, "Look, I have a plane ticket in my wallet right now, and I'm off to London. I'm off to LA, and I'm not coming back for a while," because I'd kind of had it.
Yeah.
I'd had the attitude there that I couldn't break into the movie business because it was all very cliquey. The same people did all the movies.
Right.
So I said, "I'm done." He said, "Come in and meet George. You'll love him. The role's yours." I said, "Okay." So I go in and I meet George. Now, have you ever been introduced to somebody who, before you've even shaken their hand, you know you're going to hate this person?
That's amazing.
And sure enough,
It didn't work.
I said, "Look, here's my number I had a phone number already in LA. I said, "Here's my phone number, George. If you have a problem, call me up. Bye." And that was the end of that. And of course, that role was the role of Mad Max.
Oh my gosh.
And they said, "Okay, you are now Agent X27. And I said, "What?"
These people and their numbers.
I know, patient 6, X27.
X27?
That's not
I
sexy
said,
at all.
"I'm not going to be X27. I'll go away and think of a better name." And she said, "Okay, do it." So the next day I came back, and she said, Gloria said to me, no, it was Norma that said to me, "All right, what have you got?" I said, "His pseudonym is CK8. And she said, "What does CK stand for?" I said, "It stands for can kill."
Ooh.
She said, "Ooh, I like that." And that's
Oh.
WSB Agent CK8.
Oh, wow. I thought
It's
you were
like
going to come...
It's like License to Kill.
Yeah.
Same, yeah.
I thought you were going to come back and say X28.
I couldn't. I couldn't be 00. That was already done.
That was done, yeah.
Sure, but it was in that.
And
they
then-
were looking in that same vein. Yeah.
Yeah. There'll never be another year like 1981.
Yeah, never. No, never.
I mean, where you can't walk out of your apartment without being mobbed.
Yeah.
When-
So what some other stories like? Did you guys do any mall appearances back then? Did you guys go on talk shows? Was it crazy?
Yeah.
In the airports? What was it like? Do you remember having any kind of particular stories where you're like, "Damn, I'm a rock star"?
Well, Tony and Jeannie didn't like doing PAs, so I got all of it.
That's amazing.
So
Sure, I'll go.
They put me together with Jackie Z.
Yeah.
We did lots of PAs.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And there's one big one that they had set up in New York. It was for a department store over there. And we were doing 3 department stores in 3 different areas. One was in New Jersey, one was White Plains, and there was another one I'd forgotten where. So we turn up, and we had the entire floor of the St. Moritz Hotel when it was there. So I brought my parents with me. This guy paid for everything. And so the first appearance was at in New Jersey. So we get there. Before we even get there, we're pulled off the road. The guy's on the phone. He said, "Okay, well, we can't get into the store. There's 5,000 kids outside. There's 2,000 inside. They've locked the place up and they've trashed the store."
Oh my gosh.
I said, "Oh, that sounds like fun." So what they did is they had us drive in the loading area where you drive down and
Sure.
back up to an elevator which would go upstairs. And they had the elevator go up and stop on whatever floor, and they had a stage built outside of the elevator so that if things got really nasty,
Just right on.
they push you back into the elevator, bang, you go straight back down again.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And they were told, turn the cars around, they're ready to go, do not turn the motors off, be ready to get out of here quick. So we get into the elevator and off we go, and it was a riot up there. As soon as we got out of the elevator,
Oh gosh.
there was this surge,
Oh,
this
gosh.
wave.
Oh no.
It was a crush, and the organizers said, get them out of here now. So we were on stage for fully 10 seconds, and off we went. Off to the next one.
In the same day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the next one, I'm not sure where that was. It might have been White Plains, it may not have been. But it was exactly the same situation.
Wow.
So I said, okay, I said, we can't be doing this again.
This way.
This
Right.
is not right.
Right.
I said, you're not getting money for a bang for your buck. And I said, it's not doing us any good either. So I sat down with Jackie and I said, look, we have got to quieten them down. The minute we set foot on stage, she said, okay, you do it.
You do it.
So it was the same situation, into the loading area, cars backed up to the elevator, boom, get upstairs. Same situation. I walked out, I grabbed the mic, and I said, everybody shut the up. Silence. I said, everybody sit down.
That's amazing.
So we sat on the edge of the stage, and I said, okay, this is the way it should be. What do you want to know? And we sat there for about 40 minutes and took questions
Amazing.
and had people come up, and we signed a few photographs, a few bits of paper. We really weren't set up to do that. But
Yeah.
we tried to give as much as we could within the time allotted.
Sure.
Well, and you
and they
can't-
probably the
yeah.
organizers weren't used to doing this.
Yeah.
So they couldn't see like, okay, we need to organize this. Maybe we can give out some stuff that's already autographed or whatever. But
What you can't
That's-
give something to 7,000 people. Like
Oh
that.
my
You
gosh.
can't give a piece
Yeah.
of yourself to 7,000 people.
yeah, the first
So-
mall was like, why do we bring them in? Because there's 20,000 worth of damage.
Well, we get back to the hotel, and all of the organizers and the management, and all of them were all invited back to the hotel. And they're all ecstatic. I said, what are you so happy about? He said, oh, we did $100,000 worth of damage. Would you like to come back and do this next week? I said,
We have great
are
insurance.
you insane?
That's so
I
funny.
think I want to do this again, for Christ's sake.
Well,
That's
I can't imagine
amazing.
a better person to go through that with than Jackie Zeeman, though. That must have been a blast.
It was. She was completely cool about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's cool.
And very easy to get along with. In fact, at one point, I do believe they were talking about making her and Scorpio an item. It would have been a good match, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a good match. That would have been
But
cool.
they had other things in mind at that particular stage.
And is that when Finola came on?
Yeah, when did she
No,
come?
this was 3 years before Finola came
Okay,
on.
gotcha.
This was back in 81. Finn didn't start till about 84, 85.
Right.
And we were only together in backstory. A lot of people think that we weren't, but if you really look at it, it's the backstory about how they met up, got married, had a kid, and then he left her because she was a double agent. And he,
Right. So this was all off-screen backstory.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
but it was off screen, but it was also filmed.
Oh,
There was actually film of the backstory, in backstory.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, there was. Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
realize
Oh,
that.
interesting.
Gloria didn't abide
So it was kind
by
of it
this.
was like flashbacks.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
maybe 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Gloria didn't go for this backstory stuff.
Yeah.
Not like we have now.
Sure. Yeah.
Off
She
camera, you
said-
mean?
Yeah. She felt that everything has to be recorded on screen
Yes.
for it to be legitimate.
Sure.
Sure.
Otherwise, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
Well, the audience might not care nearly as much.
Well,
as much
they
about
won't.
It. Yeah.
They just won't.
Right, yeah.
The audience can't relate to something which is happening off camera.
Not like zero.
Right.
And so you think to yourself, well, okay, I know you're getting more of a bang for your buck because you don't have to pay for me. But in terms of adding to the texture of the story, it doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't
Right.
add any
So-
layers to it.
But, you know, that was then and this is now.
Right, but
Do-
when that started, had your character had that kind of match before?
How do you mean?
Like with Anna.
Like,
Have you guys been? Did you have a love interest for a couple of years on the show before she came along,
Oh, no.
or were you
it
kind of
was-
floating around?
It was, I remember her audition. We weren't in this studio.
Right, you
We
were
were in Gower.
Sunset Gallery. Yeah,
And I remember her audition extremely well.
yeah,
And back then, Gloria would take you aside and go, well, of the three girls, what'd you think? And, you know, you'd have you always had an opinion. You always, at the back of your mind, knew which one was the best, but that didn't mean to say they always got the job.
of course.
So, this particular time, I remember after I'd finished doing the screen test with her, I walked over and I said, we're going to have a lot of fun, kid,
oh wow.
Awesome.
because I knew.
Wow, she's amazing.
And, you know, we had a lot of fun.
How many years did that story go for? I mean,
Well-
obviously, in a way, it's still going, but I mean, like,
It was actually in months.
oh, really? It was that short?
Well, a storyline on this show goes for about 6 weeks, maybe or less.
Yeah.
Back then, they went for 3, 6, 9, 12 months.
And then, so is that when Kimberly came in as well? At that time?
Kimberly came on in '84, and I remember auditioning her too.
Yeah, she told us a story about that. I'm curious if it's like keeping the suspects in different rooms. You're going to tell the same story.
Yeah, there was a guy that they had here, and his job was to really audition the auditioners.
Mm.
He'd go around and read with them, give them a few tips, etc., tell them what to do, what not to do, etc.
Yeah.
And then he would come around and say, Tristan, I've just been auditioning the suspects. And this particular one is really good. The other two, maybe not. Okay. Maybe it would work out that way, maybe not.
Right.
I mean, there's a great story about him, but that's another moment. This particular time with Kimberly, we get up on stage and we did the scene. She was brilliant in it. Gloria came out, said, okay, let's sit down. Forget the script. And we improv a scene.
Yeah.
And she wanted to see how she was going to improv because she was working with myself and Finola, and we were improvers.
Sure.
Yeah.
So she wanted to see whether little Kimberly could keep up. Not only could she keep up, she went past. She was really good at it. She
Yeah.
could really think on her feet.
That's awesome.
She told us they tasked her with trying to feed you a sandwich or something like that.
Oh, yeah. And also, colorful language was rife on the set.
Oh boy. Oh,
Yeah.
And we were told to tone it down.
Sure.
Oh, sure.
But of course that didn't make it
Right.
anyway.
Right.
So this one particular day, little Kimberly comes on. She's got this huge jar. She says, okay, for every bad word, it's 25 cents. I said, here's $20. Tell me I've used that up and I'll give you some more.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
So your first run was 80 to 92, around there?
Yes,
About 12-year stretch that you were here the whole time.
yes.
And during that decade plus, what was there a particular story that stood out to you the most, whether it was like, you know, whether it was in the heyday of the, you know, early 80s, or was it something for you character-wise that developed you, or was it going on location somewhere exotic, or what do you what stands out when you look back?
We went about stories in a different way back then. I mean, you had a brief example of it.
Yeah.
But we just told stories and they were executed in a different way. I'd have to say the story that still sticks in my mind is The Ice Princess.
Mm.
It was about a 9-month storyline. And it started out firstly, before I joined the show, with Alex Quartermain, who was a nephew of one of the Quartermains. And she came on and brought this entourage of animals, llamas and all kinds of stuff. And this was the heralding of this important person. Well, the storyline started, and Luke starts working with the Quartermains, and then I come on to beat him up, looking for information about the Ice Princess, which was a diamond, a big diamond. So the storyline, it moved along in really interesting ways. We had a way of bringing on characters which were just rich and colourful and had style.
Mm.
And we went about scenes in a different way. I mean, we only did like maybe maximum 34 scenes in a day.
Right.
And you started at 9 o'clock in the morning.
How civilized.
Tell me. And you blocked, and then you dress rehearsed, and then you got notes. With a bit of luck, you might start taping by around about 5, 6 in the afternoon, and you were there till you finished.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. And this, back then we complained about the fact we never had enough time.
Sure.
You can imagine how that stacks up against what we're doing now.
Right,
Of course,
right.
right. Yeah.
So the year the year unfolded in many, many ways.
Yeah.
But the one thing that was on the main Bible, believe it or not, there actually was a Bible back then, was that Luke and Laura weren't going to get married until 82.
Mm.
They were saving it for the summer of 82. Summer was the biggest audience time back then.
Right.
So off we go. And we do the island stuff. And then we come back. And then he proposes to her. She says yes. They come to me and say, you know, you want to be the best man, blah, 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 blah. We're getting married in a while, but
Sure.
not at the moment. In the meantime, they get a phone call from Elizabeth Taylor.
Right.
And she's a huge fan of the show and says, you know, I'd like to work on it. Well, you talk about fancy footwork. She said, I'll only work on it if there's a wedding. Well, the wedding wasn't scheduled until around about May or June. So all of a sudden, everything is brought forward like 7 months.
Wow. Wow.
That's crazy.
And they had the role of Helena already, but not with her in mind.
Right.
So, okay, Elizabeth Taylor's coming on the show. So I get brought into Gloria's office, and she said, yeah, you've probably heard the scuttlebutt, Elizabeth Taylor's coming into the show. I said, yeah. You have a one-on-one scene with her. I'm going, oh, okay. And she said, you'll stick to the script.
Huh?
You will not ad-lib. This is the first time she's ever done television. She's never worked with a multi-camera setup before, much less at the pace we work at.
Sure.
Okay, fine, got it. So, it's a big deal. The day of, we had it all set up. Gloria's office had been cleared out, and that was her dressing room, and they brought all these fish tanks in there. It's calming.
Oh.
With violet lighting, and she walks in. She's got a sloppy joes on, and walks into makeup, and she said, "Okay, which one's Tristan Rogers?" And everybody was,
Yeah.
She introduced herself to everybody. "Hi, I'm Elizabeth. How are you? You're now." He's in the booth down the end. So she walked in and says, "Tristan." I said, "Elizabeth." I learned early on, never call her Liz.
Oh, interesting.
Ever. Not unless you want to be on the out.
Wow.
Be on the outside, huh?
So I said, "Yes, pleasure, yada yada." She said, "Listen, can we run lines later?" I said, "Yeah, I'll find you." I knew where she was. So I go into her dressing room, and stacked almost to the roof with these cases of Dom Perignon pink champagne. I have never seen pink champagne since. And back then, it was about $200 a bottle.
I love her.
You haven't seen it since because you drank so many bottles? Or you haven't seen it
She's
since?
the only person I've ever seen that had access to it. I've never even seen it on a menu, on a drink menu.
On Pink
Wow.
Tom, right?
Pink.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, pink champagne, like rosé, like it's popular now, but I don't know if I've seen Dom make it. Wow.
Wow.
Especially
So-
back then, yeah.
So, she's got a glass in her hand, we're running lines, and she said, "Look," closes the door, and she said, "I've heard you're a notorious ad-libber."
What?
Busted. She said, "Can you help me with some new lines? I don't like all of these."
Oh.
I said, "Okay." Away we go. So I sat down and gave her some rewrites,
Yeah.
which she never used.
Oh my God.
What?
Never used.
Use her own, and she stick to the script.
She stuck to the script.
Wow.
So we're up on set, and she would walk on, and somebody would come out with a glass of champagne.
Really?
I love this so much.
And I've got my glass of, red ink with a plastic ice cube in it. And I said, "Well, what do you got there?" She said, "Have a taste." Okay. She said, "Finish it." It was filled immediately, and this went on, and we're having a great old laugh.
Well, yeah.
Sure.
Well, Gloria
Uh-oh.
comes in.
The high heels?
Yeah.
You can hear them.
Says- She wasn't going to say anything to Elizabeth,
Right, but
so she turned on me. She said, "Tristan, what do you think you're doing? This is a serious show. We have work to do." And Elizabeth just stood there and says, "Who do you think you're talking to?" Gloria's face. I had close-ups on the back of my shoes for about 3 weeks after that.